Hello, and welcome to the Weird Around Illinois podcast. This week we're going to talk about a personal favorite of mine, the Mothman. In a more specific way, we are going to talk about the Mothman of Hickory Hills, Illinois, which may or may not exist, but we went looking for it anyway. To give a little background on the Mothman, I'll tell you my first exposure to the Mothman was through the movie The Mothman Prophecy. It came out in 2002. I enjoyed the movie a lot. It wasn't a great movie, but I thought it was fun. And it also scared the heck out of me. Although I'm told, or rather I found out through my research afterwards, that they took a lot of artistic liberties with that movie. It wasn't like directly based on the original Mothman sighting. It was just close enough that they were able to say based on true events. The actual Mothman sighting that is most famous is from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. They were seeing him from 1966 to 1967. At the end of 1967, there was a collapse of a bridge. I think it was the Silver Bridge. So they started to think the Mothman was a sign of impending disaster because of what happened there. And the Mothman is exactly what it sounds like. It's as big as a man, it's got wings like a moth, and it's got like usually glowing red eyes. Really creepy looking. Lately there have been a number of sightings around Chicagoland. The Hickory Hills sighting is one of those. You're not going to find this Hickory Hills Mothman in any internet searches. Not yet. This is our first ever eyewitness lead. This was somebody who was basically talking in an online chat about having seen a Mothman in Hickory Hills on their drive home. And, I happened to be on that chat. Hey, really? Hickory Hills, Illinois, you say? So it was an interesting account. They basically said that it was perched on a light pole as they were driving home. And I probably wouldn't have taken it any further, except in asking exactly where it was, they said, it's right next to the Taco Bell. At which point I immediately thought, hey, we could get nachos.
Yes.
Yeah.
And suddenly the team was all in. It was kind of a low confidence investigation. I mean, even the person who brought it up, when I questioned them further, said, maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it was dark. I was tired. I'm not 100% sure of what I saw, but again, there's a Taco Bell right next to it. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, now with Mothman, there's a bigger problem with it, because with Dogman or the Grassman, they're all on usually on the ground, walking, not flying. But Mothman could be anywhere, like in the sky, flying around, because moths can fly, so obviously Mothman would be able to. And yeah, so you really don't know where the Mothman is. There's no specific habitat or anything. Now, one thing that we found out recently actually is that Mothman could be flying near bridges or water. That's new information I just heard like a few minutes ago. But
Yeah,
and
there seem to be a lot of sightings of him perched on a bridge, and I'm not sure if that goes back to that original bridge collapse, and everybody's just kind of connecting those things in their mind, and that's where they're looking for him now, or if he legitimately likes bridges.
yeah. Now there's one more thing. Moths are often attracted to light. So it brings in the question, is Mothman actually attracted to light as well? Could we somehow set up a trap for that, maybe? That's a thought that I was thinking.
It's a good question.
Now, strangely enough, our good friends at Mountain Monsters actually tried this.
Really?
Yeah, in their first season, I think it was their first season, they were looking for the Mothman in West Virginia, and they felt like one of the best ways to attract him was with light. So they were using torches and lights and everything else as part of their trap. And, you know, I leave it up to other viewers to determine if they believe what they see on that show or not. But, you know, if it is to be believed, they had some success in attracting Mothman with light.
Interesting.
I don't know. So on our trip, we found a water tower. So we were thinking maybe it may have been on top of the water tower by some chance. So we looked on there. We didn't really find it though. We also looked around because there are a lot of poles and a lot of roofs. So if you really look high, there might be a chance that Mothman might just be standing there on one of those poles or something. But again, we didn't really find anything, but we're open to possibilities still.
And the light poles weren't like substantial light, right?
Right, they're pretty small in my opinion for a full-size Mothman to be standing on.
Yeah, you know, did you guys ever find out, like, from research, how much Mothman, like, might weigh? Kind of hard to tell, but I'm curious.
It is. It really is. I mean, if you assume they're roughly the same consistency as a man, I mean, they're supposed to be 6 or 7 feet tall, so you would think you're over 200 pounds, probably closer to 250.
Also wings that
yeah.
add extra. So
that's pretty big for some of those light poles that we saw. Again, the area itself, Hickory Hills, it's a residential area. I mean, this wasn't the woods, wasn't the middle of nowhere. There were restaurants all over the place. A couple nice restaurants, actually. We may go back and check those out sometime. But we saw like a school and a park district and all kinds of things near there. If we were hunting for Bigfoot or Dogman, we probably would have not even gone through with the hunt because it would have been a waste of time. But because Mothman seems to show up anywhere, urban locations, suburban, woods, whatever, we figured this is as good a spot as any.
Yeah.
The one thing I should also mention about Hickory Hills, we did a little research on it before we went, and about the only thing they are famous for in terms of the supernatural is they do have a haunted cemetery, which I think about 3 miles from where we were, 2 miles, something like that. The cemetery features something known as the Weeping Woman. Has been caught on camera a couple times there, so who knows, maybe we'll go back there to look for her sometime now that we know the area.
Yeah.
would have been crazy if we like spotted her on the way to look for Dogman. That would have been really funny.
Yeah, that would have been great. So our conclusions, I guess, are that there's nothing there when we were there. We didn't see Mothman. We didn't see evidence of Mothman. Not that, you know, there's much that Mothman leaves behind in any encounters that we've heard of, other than disaster. While we can definitely say that we didn't see them, the other thing that we should point out is we didn't really see anything that could be mistaken for him either. So when the eyewitness says that, you know, maybe I was mistaken, maybe I was tired, maybe I saw, you know, some sort of a, you know, housing on the light or something that looked like a man, there was nothing like that. We drove the exact way that the eyewitness. We studied everything. There was absolutely nothing that any sane person could mistake for Mothman.
Yeah.
So that kind of, if anything, that adds a little bit more credibility to the fact that there was something there that night that wasn't there when we were there. Was it Mothman? I don't know. It was somebody climbing a light pole. Somebody threw a jacket on a light pole. and it just blew off before we got there. But whatever it was, assuming the credibility of the witness, and I do, they saw something there that night that was not there when we got. Yeah. Now, I mentioned earlier that Mothman often is taken to symbolize some sort of impending disaster. Again, based on the bridge collapse in West Virginia. There have been a couple other kind of thin lines that have been drawn between Mothman sightings and disasters. So we have to at least be open to that possibility. And that begs the question, why is Mothman showing up in Hickory Hills specifically? And why are they showing up in the greater Chicagoland area, which apparently they're doing in great frequency?
Could it be that Mothman is just like moving, like flying like very fast in different places, traveling really far?
Yeah, very well could be.
And one person could have just spotted Mothman at the perfect time before it went somewhere else.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Okay.
Yeah. And this sighting was in the late summer, early spring, or not, I'm sorry, late summer, early fall. So, is Mothman migratory? Were they passing through on Illinois on their way south or something? Who knows?
Yeah.
But if we were to assume that this was a sign of a disaster, I mean, my first thought when we saw that water tower there is, well, he's 50 feet from the water tower is where the sighting took place. Does that mean this water tower got a problem? Somebody going to poison it? Is it a rupture? Flood? So if you live in Hickory Hills, watch your water supply, I guess is what I'm saying. But in terms of the greater Chicago area, we'll go into that in more depth with some of our other Mothman investigations. I'm sure we're going to do several of those before we're through. But has Chicago experienced a disaster related to these Mothman sightings? Is it going to experience a disaster related to them, or is the whole Mothman disaster thing just a myth? Is Mothman a myth? These are all questions that we're going to have to ask going forward as we continue to investigate these reports.
Yeah. And of course, a mission to figure it out.
Yeah, that would be ideal if we could actually solve some of these big questions that we keep uncovering every time we go on one of these expeditions.
Yeah.
So, that pretty much sums up our investigation of the Mothman in Hickory Hills. No conclusive evidence, but nothing to disprove the eyewitness report either. A lot of Mothman sightings in the area still to be investigated. And we invite you to tune in to our podcast, visit our YouTube channel, Weird Around Illinois. Feel free to leave comments, feel free to give likes, feel free to subscribe. We certainly appreciate all the comments and support you've given us so far.
Let's try and get to 300 subscribers, unless by the time this is posted we're already past that. Won't be surprised.
We can hope.
Yeah.
And please continue to tell us about the weirdness you see in and around Illinois, because we would love to take a look at it.
Yep.
Thank you.